And that's what kind of created the idea for me that there's an opportunity here for us to expand. I don't know, quite frankly, if we didn't have those, I'm not certain Element 22 would be here.
If you could give out some advice, what advice would you tell him or her?
Find your opposite.
Clappity, clap, clap, clap. All right, here we go. We're just going to try this, see what we can do. All right, here we go.
Ready?
All right.
We're live.
All right, we are live. Welcome back to the Founders Hustle, where every business has a backstory. And I'm so thrilled to have Kenny Leonard, a former coworker of mine and current business owner of Element 22, a commercial lending group. And he's going to share with us just how the heck he got started.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. It's good to be back. I was just thinking as I was coming here, I think it's like 15 plus years now we've known each other, worked together at different credit unions, and then since then, and just always stayed in contact. So it's an honor to be here on the Founders Hustle. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you because my first taste of Kenny, we worked together back at a credit union, and he came in as the VP of commercial lending, but he literally transformed the entire department from the ground up, redeveloped everything, and really made that unit of the credit union like the powerhouse. You were bringing in so much business and you were helping the community. How did you go from doing that for a credit union to starting Element 22, which is what you do now? Tell me how that all...
Yeah, so it was an interesting story. When I went to our previous coworker or employer that we worked at before, that was my first foray into commercial lending. I had, with credit unions, I should say. I had been a commercial banker before that and always done commercial lending at community banks and national banks, that kind of thing. And so when I went to the credit union to start the commercial loan department, it was a very new arena for me. The credit union world is way different than the banking world. And it was a pleasant surprise, a little bit scary because a lot of it was just so new to me that I hadn't really, understood or knew what to get into. But while I was at the credit union, I started to hear feedback from other credit union leaders that we were working with throughout. Credit unions play very, very well together in the sandbox. I mean, there's no industry that I can correlate with the friendliness, the willingness to share information. I mean, when I started at the credit union, I had 2 or 3 other credit unions who had similar positions to what I was just hired for, who reached out and said, "Hey, do you want our policy? Do you want our, anything that we can give you, we're happy to help." And they're competitors, right? So it was so nice to it was a little bit shocking to get into that kind of environment and a little bit like, does this feel right? But it was such a great feeling and inspiring also to be a part of that. So by working in the credit union space for those many years, I got an understanding of where other credit unions felt that they were lacking in their own commercial lending or MBL space. And that's what kind of created the idea for me that there's an opportunity here for us to expand commercial lending for credit unions around the state and the country, that maybe up until now would have said, if a member walked in and needed a commercial loan, would have said, sorry, we just don't do that. Right. But starting a company where we could have a resource that they could say, you know what, we're not the experts, but we've partnered with a company like Element 22 where we can refer them to, and then we would handle everything for that credit union. But the relationship, the loan dollars, everything still resides with the credit union. And so that was really the impetus where I realized a lot of these credit unions are turning down opportunities that are right in front of them that people are coming into and asking for. And they're also passing on opportunities of larger, more sophisticated commercial loans, just because they don't feel that they have the resources or knowledge, and that we could, fill that gap and help them get those done.
So at Element 22, if I understand correctly, you have a team of experts, and then you help out all these small credit unions that want to do lending, but don't have the expertise. So you're coming in and saying, I will help you create the loan. And sometimes if you have a credit union that has a loan too big for them, you actually will collaborate with others. Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you see this first gap of a need?
It started as when I first started at the credit union and got more involved with the credit union industry and the kind of the trade association and all of that. It started to become apparent to me that what I was doing at the credit union I was at was unique and different than what other credit unions may have been doing. Some were already doing it and some had already figured it out. For a long time, commercial lending wasn't even permitted regulatory wise for credit unions to even do.
Okay.
So once that blockade, if you will, got lifted, there was a huge learning curve. And credit unions either had to figure out, are they going to work with a company like ours? Because there were some that existed like ours. Are they going to build the department from the ground up, which is what, when I went to work at the credit union with you, that's what they decided to do. And so I was kind of the impetus for that. Or do they just pass? And it was kind of one of those three options. So the more and more that I got talking with other credit union leaders about what we were doing, it became fairly apparent to me that there was an opportunity, a business opportunity that we could assist smaller credit unions that never would have thought commercial lending was an option for them to help them get into that space.
Okay. So what type of commercial loans do you specialize in, or, do credit unions lean towards a certain loan, or who are you buying?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, we've done a lot. I mean, and oftentimes in the commercial lending space, you get to become an expert in something you've never done before, which is one of the reasons I love it so much, because every loan is different. Every industry is different. Even loans in the same industry are different, right? So it's such a huge learning curve, and I love that. I mean, we've done everything from coal mines to amusement parks to solar fields you name it, we've done all of it. The only thing that I don't do, and this is only because I don't know enough about it and I'm uncomfortable, but if I found the right person who knew it, I would do it, is lending on any heads of cattle or cattle stock or anything like that. Yeah. And it's only because I just don't know enough about the industry.
Right.
It's a very specialized thing. And, if you think about it, if heads of cattle are your collateral, you have to go count the collateral to make sure. You know what I mean? So, I'm not really into getting into wellies and, going into, starting to count cattle, but we do loans for farmers. We'll do, a lot of farmers have their land and they own it free and clear. It's a generational thing. So we will use that land as collateral to finance things like the head of cattle. One of my most favorite stories is, we did a loan for a farm who owned a bunch of sheep.
Okay.
And they needed money to buy more sheep. We weren't going to lend on the sheep, but they had collateral, they had equity in the land and the barns that they had the sheep in. And they would lease out the sheep to solar farms.
Really?
So they would drop them off in April at the solar farm. The sheep would eat the grass all year.
My goodness.
Through the fall. And then they would go pick them up in the fall, but then they didn't have to pay for, lawn guys to come and mow the grass through the whole.
Unique.
Yeah. So, it's a fun story. I love it. And I got to meet some really cute sheep. So
that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
So tell me about the first day or the first time that you presented this idea to your partner. How did you go from idea to creation?
It was a whirlwind, to say the least. My business partner and I, who started it, Ryan Raffett, we came together realizing there was a business opportunity, but also realizing the only way to get it off the ground would mean that we would have to liquidate our 401ks and, start everything on our own.
On the table.
All the chips on the table. So we did that. And it was by the grace of God, our spouses let us do it. I always tease Ryan that I never came home one day and got asked by my husband, so when are we getting a paycheck next? Or, how's things going? Right. It was just and I think similar story for him, our spouses just trusted us and let us, run with it, which if the shoe was on the other foot, there's no way I would have not been asking those questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's, it was a challenge for sure.
And that's what I appreciate about entrepreneurs and yourself is the fact that you are risking it all. You believe in yourself so much. You're putting everything that you have done to date on the table and saying, I'm going to do it. And you did. And you're doing great.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people, myself included, have that kind of, it's wonderful. So looking back today, you've been in business for how long now?
It'll be 8 years in July.
Okay. So looking back today, what do you think was your biggest hurdle, or I don't want to say mistake, but what would you have done differently knowing what you know now?
I think the biggest thing that I underestimated was all of the other stuff you have to do that wasn't commercial lending, which is what we knew, right? It was the accounting, it was the marketing, it was the social media, it was the regulatory. I mean, we're very heavily regulated in this industry, and being a company that does business with credit unions and community banks means we're examined the same way that they are. So,
okay.
And for a relatively small startup company, having to get audited financials and go through those exams, extremely expensive. We totally underestimated that. I didn't fully grasp how much that was. Fortunately, I had built some really good relationships with credit unions around the state who were willing to take a shot with us and jump on board. I don't know, quite frankly, if we didn't have those, I'm not certain Element 22 would be here. I just, it really required that kind of level of trust and relationship and the other CEOs around the state that were willing to take a jump with us, quite frankly.
Right. So besides the regulatory expenses that come with it, was there any moment in time that you or Ryan just thought, I'm going to throw the towel in, like this just is not working?
It was close a couple times.
Okay.
I definitely remember, I think it wasn't until we started in July of, 8 years? So that would have been 2018. I think by October, November, we still hadn't produced an invoice yet. It was a lot of, and this working in the credit union industry, and I love everybody there, but nothing moves fast. Right. So trying to bring on a new partner like Element 22, who's a new company who hasn't been vetted by the regulators. I mean, there's a lot of risk for people to want to get involved with us and to make that jump with us. So there was definitely some times, holidays were coming up, October, November. We hadn't generated $1 yet. There were some close moments where, and I don't know, I mean, I hear this all across the board with entrepreneurs.
Right.
Something happens. If it's going to work, something happens. And, we got a big contract for something, right? I can't remember what it was, but, and that was like, okay, maybe this can happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So you almost threw the towel in right at the very beginning. Throughout that process, at what point did you start to feel comfortable? Like, hey, we are going to make this. Like, what was that turning point?
Yeah. So that October, November definitely felt like we maybe had proven ourselves a little bit, but then it was just a matter of how can we expand this and generate additional revenue. That's also when we started having conversations with some of our clients who were interested in buying into the company.
Okay.
So at that point, we started seeing an opportunity to raise additional capital, not just mine and Ryan's equity, and leverage the other credit unions that were interested in potentially being an owner, a part owner of Element 22. And that was a huge lift. I don't know that we could have sustained if it wasn't for that, quite frankly. I'm forever grateful for those credit unions that, some of it was personal relationships, some of it was just business opportunity. But for whatever reason, they took a chance with us and,
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. So where are you at today? So you and Ryan put all the chips on the table, almost crumbled. Big contract comes through. You're rolling. You're feeling good. You get other investors coming in. Tell me about today. Like, do you have people working for you? What are you envisioning in the coming years?
Yeah, it's a great question. So currently we have, I want to say 9 staff. One of them's a contract person. Yeah.
Wow.
Soon to hire a 10th. And we are big believers in hiring the best people, not necessarily geographically. So it's a little bit unique in the credit union or commercial lending space in the credit analysts. Back in the day when I started as a credit analyst in the commercial banking world, at the time it was LaSalle Bank. They sent me to Troy. I learned how to be a commercial banker, learn credit for 3 months. They put me up in Troy for 3 months to learn commercial lending and credit. Then they sent me back to Kalamazoo. I worked under other lenders and underwrote their deals.
Okay.
And then they would introduce me to their attorney connections, their CPA connections, their borrowers, that kind of thing. And then as a lender would either retire or the portfolio grew big enough that there was an opportunity for another lender, then those underwriters would become lenders, right?
Okay.
So I would have gotten promoted, and that's how it would work. But probably 15 years ago, they started, if you wanted to be an underwriter, you would go to Troy or Chicago or New York and you would stay there. You don't go back.
Oh.
So there's a huge gap in credit knowledge in local, smaller towns.
That makes sense. Okay.
That people can't find underwriters. So we see that as a huge opportunity where if we go find the experts, we're not big on hiring people who are, just out of credit school, if you will. We really want experts that have been doing it for 5-10 years. It's more expensive, but it pays dividends as far as quality and that kind of thing. So we have 2 underwriters that work for us out of Kentucky. We have one out of New York. We just interviewed one in Indiana. So we're not opposed to going where the talent is and leveraging technology.
Yeah. So as far as lenders and credit unions that you serve, are you held to Michigan or can you lend nationwide?
We can. Each state does have some of their own regulatory limitations, and we're tapped into each of those. We have contracts with community banks and credit unions of about 110. 90% are credit unions.
Okay.
But to the point I was saying earlier, community banks are also seeing a lot of the same problems that credit unions are seeing.
Oh, sure.
And they can't find local talent. They can't find underwriters, right? Because they've all dispersed. They're in the metropolitan areas and there's nobody local. So that's a huge growth opportunity we see, and it's been successful so far. But it's it's a constant challenge to find the right staff to fill the position. And so as a result of that, in those 110 banks and credit unions that we work with, they're in 24 different states, everywhere from Hawaii to Maine. We will go wherever the business opportunity is there. And we're big believers too, not just on working with credit unions or community banks just to get another client, but we really try to match our values and vision and all that kind of stuff together so that we're all marching to the same drum.
Yeah. So a lot of people, media, everything are really talking about AI, making it sound like it's this crazy beast that's going to come in and wipe us all out with our jobs. Talk to me about AI in the lending industry. Do you see it helping? Do you see it taking away jobs? Do you see it being a partner? Where does AI fit into your...
Yeah, it's a great question. We're actually in the middle of writing our AI policy right now and doing a rollout to our company. So this is very, very current for Element 22. And it's a challenge. Some people see it as very threatening, even our own staff.
Okay.
Some see it as opportunity. Some are not sure where to go, right?
Yeah.
And they might want to use it, and they probably do without us knowing about it, but they don't want to talk about it. And so trying to understand exactly where they see all of that is huge. And we're just planning for our strategic plan coming up here next planning session the next month, and AI is a big part of that. And I want to know from the staff, what are your fears? What do you see as the limitations? What do you see as the opportunities? How do you think you could use this? That kind of stuff. I don't know that I don't see it as a threat. I see it as an opportunity that you can leverage if you do it correctly. Mm-hmm. And by that, I mean, there's a lot of, research stuff in particular to be able to, for instance, let's say we did an amusement park, right? The amount of research and information that I had to learn to do our first amusement park commercial loan versus what I could have found out through AI, and that research being aggregated within minutes compared to days or weeks to figure that out, astronomical. So that kind of thing I can see. And the key thing I think with AI is you have to ask it for its sources. I always make sure that whatever it is that especially if I'm writing an article or anything that I'm going to, publish, making sure that I know the sources, I validate the sources and verify the sources, so that you make sure, because AI is not perfect, right? I mean, I always kind of use the analogy that, the football analogy, it'll get you to 20-yard line, and then you have to get the other 20 yards
Right.
on your own. Right?
Yeah.
And whether that's proofreading, whether that's, changing, make it sound like you versus sound like AI, that kind of thing. So there's still work that has to be done, but I don't see, some of the things I'm afraid of are, and this has kind of been going on for a long time, not even necessarily with AI, but, trying to get to a quick score model where you like approve, deny based on inputs that sometimes aren't relevant. That's a little bit fearful because I feel like we might leave a lot because it's going to err on the side of caution, right? And exclude people that maybe should be worthy, or maybe that you just need an outlook or a handheld approach to get them to the finish line.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a, probably one of the biggest concerns that I have as it comes to, and the other biggest thing, honestly, is personal identifiable information, making sure that we protect, I don't want to upload tax returns into AI or, personal financial statements or anything like that. So making sure that you protect each individual
absolutely,
and their information.
Absolutely. Well, 8 years into it, you've been very successful. You've been growing. What are some of your success factors? What if you could give out some advice in terms of if you were to look at a future entrepreneur in the eye, what advice would you tell him or her?
Find your opposite.
Ooh, that's a new one. Okay.
Yeah. Ryan is my opposite.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's the numbers guy. He's the analytical guy. He's the credit guy. Everything I'm not. I mean, he even claims that XL green is his favorite color. And I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't been in his house in a while, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the rooms are XL green. And our staff knows that if you want to present anything to me, it's got to have a lot of color on it because that's just my, my personality. Right. But that's been huge. And it wasn't planned. It just worked. And I don't know how to, it sounds like too good to be true. And it kind of is to some extent, but we never had to divide roles.
Right.
We just knew who fell into what role. And even our staff now has learned, like, and in the beginning, it might be like, do I go to Kenny or Ryan for something? And now it's like, oh no, we just know it's, this way or that way. So, there's no way Element 22 would be where it is today if it was just Kenny.
Yeah.
Or just Ryan. I think you would agree to that too. Like our offsetting characteristics and qualities and strengths is what has gotten us to where we are.
So find your opposite. I have not heard that before. That is really cool. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. So along in your journey, we always talk about the lessons learned. What are some of the lessons that you would share with others that are up and coming, both good and bad, that you would say, watch out for, fill in the blank?
A couple things. One is don't hang on to someone too long. As an employee.
Oh, okay.
Because oftentimes, especially as a new business, you feel like I can't get rid of them, even though, and I'm not talking personally, they might be great people. It's nothing about that, right? But for whatever reason, their work product or their, whatever it is, it's just not aligning with what the organization is.
Sure.
And it's really easy just to be like, well, we'll just, we'll ride it out, or we can't, we have too much work. If we get rid of them, who's going to do it? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Once you pull that trigger, you will realize, even if it creates a lot of work short term, that it creates a lot of opportunity. And it also gives you credibility with staff.
Oh.
Because oftentimes when that is going on, staff see those individuals as creating a time and energy suck on everybody else.
Yeah.
And so once you help them move on, you create so much more credibility with your own team because they see that, okay, they're not oblivious to what we're dealing with, right? So that would be
that's huge advice for anybody. I've seen
it's
as
so
a manager,
hard to do.
Yeah, as a manager, I've seen that time and time again. It's tough because you want to love everybody, but that's great advice. Would you take that same approach? And I think I already know the answer, but would you take that with your clients as well in terms of not everybody's a fit for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've fired clients before. And it's kind of the 80-20 rule. I know it's a little bit cliche and, it's taught in business school forever. But there certainly is a little bit of truth. And I think any business could do this and analyze your clients and determine Where does 80% of our revenue come from? Where does 80% of our time get spent?
Right.
And then what's that other 20%? And why are we doing this? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it kind of goes back to that employee situation, right? Where you think you can't, it's a revenue stream that you don't want to give up on, right?
Right.
But once you do it, you realize the opportunities it creates. And again, it creates credibility with the team because they're the ones who are dealing with that problem employer, problem client, right? All the time. And once you hear them and listen to them and acknowledge what they're going through and what they're dealing with, and say, you know what, it's just not working. It's, bygones be bygones and nothing personal. Staff appreciates that stuff so much. And they're the ones in the trenches doing it all day. You know? We only hear about it in our weekly meetings or something, right? But when staff starts talking about issues like that, whether it's employees or whether it's clients, listen to them.
Listen to them. Yeah.
Act on it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. And I appreciate it because sometimes employees feel like they're not being seen or they're not being heard. But to know that you, at least, and that communication piece, just listen and show us that we see you, we hear you, and then act on it.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's the biggest part, is acting on it.
And that's the hardest part. I mean, it really is, because it's easy for me to sit back and say, if we ask this client to leave, we're going to lose 10% of our revenue or 20% or whatever it is, right? But you also, it's a subjective calculation that you can't quantify the morale and the overall, like, feel goodness of the company,
right?
That is so important. And staff they see you do that kind of thing. They know you're in it for them, and you're not in it for money. That goes a long way. It goes a long way. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's time for the lightning round. So I'm going to rattle off a couple of questions here.
Okay.
And you just tell me what's going to come off of your mind. So, one word you'd use to describe the future of credit unions.
Opportunity.
Oh, opportunity. Good one. Biggest myth about commercial lending.
Can I use more than one word?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The one word.
It's just like mortgage or consumer lending.
Okay. Wait.
Which it's not.
So say it again. So the biggest myth about commercial lending is
that some folks think that it's just like mortgage or consumer lending. Can I expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, commercial or consumer lending and mortgage lending, and I don't do it. So take this with a grain of salt. There's a reason I haven't done it, because there's too many rules and I don't like it. But consumer and mortgage lending oftentimes is driven by matrix.
Okay.
Matrices, whatever that is. And it's, you have a credit score of this, you have a debt to income ratio of this, you have loan to value of collateral of this, and then you match it up and that's your rate, right?
Right.
And it has to be that way. The regs are that way. You can't have the same situation with those same ratios and do a different rate for the same. If they have the same ratios, you can't do a different rate for each of them. They have to match.
Yes.
Right. And they're going to look at that and make sure that you're doing that. Commercial lending is not that case. So we look at a plethora of different ratios. We also look at character. We also look at good standing in the community. We also look at how long have they been a member. I mean, a lot of other factors that are not in that kind of matrix.
Okay.
That allow us to get much more centered on each individual borrower, not only from a risk perspective, but also from a structure perspective. So as far as fees you charge, rates you charge, that kind of thing. You can also do things like, I'll charge you this rate for the first year. And if you do this, this, and this after 12 months, then I'll reduce your rate to this. Right. So, there's a lot of flexibility that is oftentimes too, in a mortgage or consumer loan, if you think about it, when let's say you went to ABC Credit Union and got an auto loan. When do you ever hear from them again about your auto loan? I mean, you'll probably hear from them about, other products and stuff they have, but when do they come to you and ask about your auto loan?
Yeah.
Never, right? Commercial lending, we have to touch our clients every year.
Okay.
So it's not a one and done and move on and, everything's hunky dory. So regulatory wise, we have to interact with our clients every year, which is why we can do some of that kind of custom, flexible stuff.
Yeah.
So sorry, I totally blew up the lightning round.
No, that was multiple strikes of lightning on that one. We like it. Relationship banking or technology, which wins?
relationship banking, hands down.
Yeah. Okay. All right. One quality every great leader needs.
Humility.
Humility.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. What's more exciting to you? Growth, innovation, or impact?
Ooh. Growth. Innovation.
No.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's Friday night. Would you do pizza or steak?
I kind of feel like a pizza.
Oh my gosh, you're man. I would totally.
Yeah, I mean, I like steak, but today I'm just like, it's been a week, like a steak maybe on a Sunday or Saturday, but today's a pizza day for sure. Yeah.
That's so cool. So looking at where you're at today, where the journey is going to go in the future with Element 22, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, it's deep. I just want to know that I helped.
Aww.
Right? Whether it's our clients, whether it's our employees, whether it's the community. I just want to be, I can't remember. Was it Maya Angelou who said, people might not remember you for who you were, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
Something to that effect, right?
Yep.
And I think that's so crucial, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I can do good and have an impact and have people walk away like feeling that, there was humility, there was acceptance, there was love, kindness. Yeah, I'll take that.
Kenny. Made me cry.
No, stop.
No, it's good. All right. Well, thank you for being on the show. But let our listeners know, how do we find Element 22? What's your website? How do we reach out to you and connect with you?
Yeah, so definitely we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and then our website's www.element22cg.com. So check us out there. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, so feel free to reach out to me and connect. Happy to do this podcast. And Swaff, is it okay to say that publicly?
Heck yeah.
Swaff introduced me to some other avenues to do some more podcasts, so I look forward to doing that on various topics. So it was an honor to be here, and thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun having you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have to see how this thing... I forgot to hit record.
Shut up.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Founders Hustle. I would absolutely love to know what resonated with you the most from today's guest. Go ahead and drop me a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Also, if there's a future topic that you'd like me to touch on, go ahead and drop that in the comments as well. But no matter where you're watching or streaming your favorite shows, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on social media. Tell a friend about this. I would love the support. But in the meantime, keep living, keep growing, and keep hustling, because you are meant to do great things. See you next week.